General salute. Present arms. And shoulder arms. Order arms. Shoulder arms. Australia's Federation Guard, Royal Salute, present arms. And shoulder arms. Order arms. Australia's Federation Guard, Royal Salute, present, arms. Shoulder! Arms! Order! Arms! Good afternoon, Your Majesty. Major Catherine Best, Officer Commanding Australia's Federation Guard. The Guard is ready for your inspection, sir.
the one in the blue thing. What's between someone and the manager one?
now the noise. bit of
Copy. 3.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. With golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance, Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance, Australia fair. Kulambanya, Australia, Wabiri,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Great Hall of Australia's Parliament House for this reception in honour of His Majesty King Charles III and Her Majesty Queen Camilla. A special thank you to the Woden Valley Youth Choir for that wonderful rendition. I would now like to invite Auntie Violet Sheridan, Senior Ngunnawal Elder, to deliver a welcome to country. Auntie Violet.
Thank you so much. Yuma, hello. Hello, Your Majesties. I warmly welcome you to the land of the Ngunnawal people and to Canberra. But before I go and welcome, I'd like to acknowledge a few people. Your Majesties, Governors, and Administrator, Prime Minister and Miss Jodie Aden, President and Mr Lambert, Mr Speaker, Ambassador, and I, Commissioners, Leader of the Opposition and Mrs Dutton, Senators and Members, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to explain to our Majesties what I've been taught growing up as a child by my knowledge older, what a welcome to country is. A welcome to country is a traditional Aboriginal blessing, symbolising the traditional owners of the land welcome you, but it also shows respect for the First Peoples of the land you are meeting on. The reason for this custom is to protect your spirit while you are on our land. I am a proud Ngunnawal woman as I carry my ancestors in spirit, walking into the future, teaching the next generations about the oldest culture in the world, my culture, the Ngunnawal Aboriginal culture. I'd like to pay my respects to my elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to any First Nations people here this morning. But I'd also like to acknowledge all the non-Indigenous people here as well. In keeping in the general spirit of friendship and reconciliation, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you, King Charles III and Queen Camilla, and special guests, Prime Ministers, distinguished guests, to the land of the Ngunnawal people. And on behalf of my family and the other Ngunnawal families, I say welcome, welcome. Thank you all so much. God bless, and a safe trip home.
Thank you, Auntie Violet. Now I'd like to invite the Honourable Anthony Albanese MP, Prime Minister of Australia, to speak. Prime Minister.
Your Majesties, King Charles III, for decades you have been warmly welcomed to our country by generations of Australians as the Prince of Wales. Here, in the heart of our democracy, it now gives us the greatest pleasure to welcome you for the first time as Sovereign, and to welcome alongside you Her Majesty Queen Camilla. Since your first visit in 1966, you have been taken into Australian hearts, just as you have taken us into yours. You have known the great natural beauty of this continent in all its challenge and all its reward. You have known the warmth, strength and humour of our people. And what has grown out of your appreciation of all of this is an affection that flows both ways. You have stood with us proudly in good times. You have stood with us just as emphatically in our difficult times. In that same spirit, I know how greatly many Australian charities value the quiet yet deeply personal interest Queen Camilla has taken in their work over the years. Your Majesty, we also like to believe that along the way this country has managed to make something of a mark on you, not least through some of your uniquely Australian educational experiences, ranging from your time at Timbertop to your time in the Countdown studio being interviewed by Molly Meldrum. Both in their own ways, deeply formative experiences. As King, you have an extraordinary duty to the traditions so carefully upheld, protected and nurtured by generations of your forebears, not least your mother, Queen Elizabeth II, herself such a shining thread through the story of modern Australia. As she served her people unflaggingly, she was respected, she was cherished, and she was much loved. At the end of her most extraordinary life, Australia mourned with you and your family. Your abiding duty to all that has been built on the foundations of tradition is balanced by a great responsibility to the future, both its serious challenges and its exciting possibilities. You have long apprehended the grave reality of climate change. You take seriously the threat that it represents, as well as the necessity and, crucially, the capability of humanity to take meaningful and effective action against it. For a considerable time, you have also been a valued contributor to discussions on the urban environment and sustainability. You have also shown a deep and abiding interest in reconciliation and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And you have shown great respect for Australians, even during times when we have debated the future of our own constitutional arrangements and the nature of our relationship with the Crown. Nothing stands still. The Australia you first knew has grown and evolved in so many ways. Our communities have been strengthened and enriched by people drawn from every culture, background and tradition. As a modern, outward-looking economy, we've found our place in the world and made our home in the region. We've gained a deeper and truer understanding of our national story. Yet through these decades of change, our bonds of respect and affection have matured and they have endured. Your Majesty, it was one of the honours of my life to lead the Australian delegation attending your coronation, as it was to be granted a private audience with you. Australians have long felt that the warmth your mother felt for this country is a warmth that thrives in your own heart. In the coming days, we will be together again in Samoa, carrying the warmth of the Australian people to the extraordinary community of nations that is our great Commonwealth. For Australia, the Commonwealth is family. And, as with any family, we appreciate our differences, we have regard for each other's achievements, and we revel in the closeness of what is a remarkable and enduring bond. Indeed, it is a family in which you have been immersed nearly as long as your own. In 1966, you came to us as a fresh-faced student, ready for an education that was never going to be contained within the walls of a classroom. Nearly 6 decades on, you have come to us in your new role, bearing the weight of the Crown and all that it entails. We know the institution is secure in your hands, and we know your commitment to peace and stability will act as your guide during the challenging times in which we find ourselves. The regard and the respect that we feel for you has been decades in the making. It is a story that has seen so much change over so many years. What never changes is the truth stamped on every page of that story, which is that your Majesties are very welcome here. And on behalf of all Australians, we wish you an absolutely splendid stay.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I now invite the Honourable Peter Dutton MP, Leader of the Opposition, to speak. Mr Dutton.
Your Majesties, Prime Minister, former Prime Ministers, Governors, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honour to be here today, and on behalf of the Federal Opposition, it is a privilege and a pleasure to welcome Your Majesties to the Australian Parliament. Your Majesty, our King, your 17th visit to Australia is truly special for Australians. Not only, of course, because it's your first visit as our King, but also because it's testimony to your recovery. We hope your spirits have been lifted by the response that you've received so far, yesterday in Sydney and today at the War Memorial, and indeed here in this hall, in this eclectic gathering. People have had haircuts, people have shined shoes, suits have been pressed, and that's just the Republicans. As we know, Your Majesty, you are a most welcome guest in this country, and we hope that your spirits have been lifted by the response. We also know that your own spirit has been strengthened by the constant support of your wife and Queen. Your Majesty, our Queen, of the many qualities Australians see in you, there is none stronger than the love you have for your husband, your King. Upon your return home, Your Majesties, I know that you will convey the Australian people's well wishes to the Princess of Wales. From the beginning of her reign, Queen Elizabeth knew that the path to modernity lay not in the emphasis of the people serving the monarch, rather on being a monarch who tirelessly serves the people. We were honoured to pay tribute to her great life in this very hall, and today we acknowledge that her dedication to duty carries on in her son, in her daughter-in-law, and in the Royal House of Windsor. Your Majesty, it's been 58 years since a somewhat shy boy bounded down the air stairs of a Qantas jet on his first trip to Australia. As the Prime Minister mentioned before, your time at Geelong Grammar's Timbertop campus was transformational. Australia is proud to have played a part in forging a prince, and I want to acknowledge your late friend and history teacher, Michael Collins Peirce, whose mentorship helped mould a prince of patience. If Elizabeth was the Queen Australia came to know, you, Your Majesty, are the King Australia already knows, and we know your long-standing connection with the Australian Defence Force. I join with the Governor-General and the Prime Minister in congratulating you on your appointment to the highest honorary ranks in our Navy, Army and Air Force. Your Majesties, your visit reminds Australians of our connection to Great Britain, of that happy, swollen, distance-obliterated pipeline of people and ideas and goods and services, as a former British Prime Minister aptly put it. Your presence here happily reminds Australians of all the things we love about Britain: Austen and Shakespeare, Churchill and Darwin, Queen and Doctor Who, cricket and rugby, and of course tea and pints. But far more importantly, your presence here reminds us as Australians of our great British inheritance, of those features which have helped to forge a new nation: representative democracy, the Constitution, the separation of powers, the rule of law, the English language, freedom of speech, of association, of the press, and so much more besides. We should never take our British inheritance for granted. Australia has benefited from the stability of a democracy with the monarchy as our bedrock, through times of peace and war, constitutional and parliamentary crises, good times and bad. Australians have known stability and have taken confidence knowing that there are better days ahead, because our institutions are protected and underpinned by the independence and stoicism of the reigning monarch. Your Majesties, we welcome you to the Parliament with great appreciation, admiration and affection.
Thank you, Mr. Dutton. I now invite His Majesty King Charles III to deliver his address. Majesty.
Governors and Administrator, Prime Minister and Ms Hayden, President of the Senate and Mr Lambert, Speaker of the House of Representatives, High Commissioners and Ambassador, Leader of the Opposition and Mrs Dutton, Honourable Members, Auntie Violet, on behalf of the Ngunnawal people and the Wiradjuri echoes, ladies and gentlemen, I really am enormously touched by those very kind welcomes and by your invitation, Prime Minister, to say a few words here in Parliament House, the national home of Australia's strong and vibrant democratic tradition. Let me also say how deeply I appreciated this morning's moving Welcome to Country ceremony, which offers me the opportunity to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet, the Ngunnawal people and all First Nations peoples who have loved and cared for this continent for 65,000 years. In my many visits to Australia, I have witnessed the courage and hope that have guided the nation's long and sometimes difficult journey towards reconciliation. Throughout my life, Australia's First Nations peoples have done me the great honour of sharing so generously their stories and cultures. I can only say how much my own experience has been shaped and strengthened by such traditional wisdom. Today, I am proud to follow in the footsteps of my late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, who spoke of the warmth she received from her first visit in 1954. This was a feeling which I know she returned in equal measure. My own first visit came in 1966, as Prime Minister you mentioned, when I had indeed the life-shaping and life-affirming opportunity to continue part of my education in Victoria. And, ladies and gentlemen, what an education it was. I had thought that the school I had been attending in Scotland was remote and testing enough, but nothing had quite prepared me for the realities of the bush country around Mount Buller. All I can say is that I arrived as an adolescent and left as a more rounded, if not even somewhat chiselled, character once I had contended with brown snakes, leeches, funnel web spiders and bull ants. And bearing in mind, this was very nearly 60 years ago, being given certain unmentionable parts of a bull calf to eat from a branding fire in outback Queensland. So it was, therefore, that my own bond with Australia was formed early on. Every time I return to the sunburnt country, I am always moved by the hauntingly evocative cries of the kookaburra, the screeching of the galah, and the warbling of the magpie. Over the 6 decades since my first visit, I have, of course, witnessed both continuity and great change. It is worth reflecting that Australia's unique character has endured and also evolved, and that Australia has become a stronger nation as a result of becoming one of the most multicultural on earth. Today, with all due recognition of the impacts of the global cost of living crisis, Australia's economic growth has been remarkable, and this is a country which, for all its size and diversity, never omits to look outward. Australia has offered and continues to offer so much to the world. The character of this country and its people is hardly more vivid than when both are tested by disaster. The Black Summer of 2019 and 2020, the relentless floods of 2022 and 2023, tropical cyclones Jasper and Kirrily in 23 and 2024, and of course so many more. I cannot tell you how much I have felt the grief and shock of what you have gone through, having visited many of those communities myself over all these years. Amidst such overwhelming challenges, I have always been deeply impressed by the extraordinary bravery and resilience of those who look up, look out, and in that most Australian of ways, battle on. The way, for instance, in which firefighters, police, emergency services, defence personnel and many thousands of volunteers risk their lives to stand by their mates, neighbours and strangers, not to mention livestock and property, represents to me the essence of the Australian character. The disasters were not in themselves new at all. Life here has always entailed these extremities of survival and endurance. Yet in their magnitude and ferocity, as well as their frequency, they are new. The regular roll of unprecedented events is an unmistakable sign of climate change, to which Australia is so particularly vulnerable. This is why Australia's international leadership on global initiatives to protect our climate and biodiversity is of such absolute and critical importance. Indeed, the world's first Global Nature Positive Summit was held in Sydney in the past fortnight. The private sector's involvement in the summit demonstrates that environmental challenges are not just problems. The transition to restoring the balance of nature on our planet offers immense opportunities, and I am increasingly encouraged by the private sector's efforts to help turn the tide. Australia has all the natural ingredients to create a more sustainable, regenerative way of living. By harnessing the power with which nature has endowed the nation, whether it be wind or its famous sunshine, Australia is tracking the path towards a better and safer future. It is in all our interests to be good stewards of the world and good ancestors to those who come after us, because we are all connected, both as a global community and with all that sustains life. That is the timeless wisdom of Indigenous people throughout the entire world, from which each one of us can benefit. With the COVID-19 pandemic barely behind us, the impacts of climate change deepening, and the horrors of war, death, and needless destruction all too visible, this moment in our history requires both ancient and new thinking. It requires more of our minds, our hearts, and our hands. It also requires us to come together with courage, care, and compassion. The challenges we now face call us to show not only constancy and valor, but also humanity, empathy, and generosity of spirit. Looking out across the global Commonwealth of Nations, I see a family of some 2.5 billion people striving for peace, justice, and mutual respect. The Commonwealth spans 6 continents, and as a group has the size and influence to play a significant role on the global stage, while being small enough to nurture personal relationships. It has the diversity to understand the world's problems and the sheer brain power and resolve to formulate practical solutions. I need hardly say that I'm looking forward to joining leaders in Apia shortly to support their work. Here in Australia, meanwhile, my wife and I will have the great privilege of meeting remarkable scientists, entrepreneurs, and community leaders who are paving the way in environmental management or healthcare, addressing domestic and family violence, promoting literacy and literature, and helping young Indigenous Australians to realise their full potential. I cannot begin to express how pleased we are to be here again, nor how sad I am that it has to be so short on this occasion. When we turn our steps homeward, we will carry memories of friendships renewed, of new ones forged, and of the characteristic warmth and inimitable humour of Australians, which you share with those who are fortunate enough to know you. Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's formalities. Their Majesties will now make their way through the hall. Thank you very much. You're going to have to pull out. You're going to have to pull out. Sorry, can we pick up? Stubborn? Thank you. Right, guys, go on, move on. Give a bit more space. Seriously, we're trying to give you what you want. We're trying to tell you. We're trying to give you what you want. Okay, buddy. Thank you. Right, just put your phones down, enjoy the moment. Stop.
You've got big lenses, you can get it from there. Not yet, not yet. Folks, come on, let's get moving. That's it. Ideal.
Yeah.